So I know I'm probably the last person to put up their top 12 books of 2012, but at least I'm doing it. That's all that counts. I've noticed a lot of people saying that they can't like segregate their favorites and they just love them all so much they can't decide. I can. So the first 5 I talk about are my all-time favorites of the year, and then the other ones are just kind of my other secondary favorites. Number 1 would 100% have to be Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. This probably comes as no surprise to those of you who have been subscribed to me for a while. But just in general, I was so happy to come across Gillian Flynn. For me, at least now, she's just that one author where no matter what she writes, no matter what she puts out, I will go ahead and read it. And if you want to step into very quickly the world of dark, very graphic adult psychological thrillers, then go ahead and read this 100%. Next is The Marbury Lens by Andrew Smith. The second book, Passenger, came out this year, but it's not in my library yet, and I don't want to spend full price, and I can't find a good price on a good copy online yet, unfortunately. I would place this in the genres somewhere between horror and dystopia. It's about a boy who travels to England, comes across a pair of glasses that are described as looking nothing actually like this in the book, and they transport him into this horrible, terrifying alternate universe. This is definitely the most on edge I would say I've ever been while reading a book. Next is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Once again, adult psychological thriller. If you want to learn more about the plot of all of her books, then definitely go ahead and watch my reviews that I have. I also did want to point out, because I said this in one video and someone else commented saying they went ahead and did it and they definitely agreed. If you're going to read Gillian Flynn, I really would recommend reading her books in order. So first Sharp Objects, then Dark Places, then Gone Girl. I just don't think it would go as well if you started backwards or say in the middle. Not that there's any correlation in terms of the plot, but trust me, it's just better that way. Next is a modern classic in my opinion, and that is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I also really want to recommend going ahead and watching my review of this book, because I think out of all of the videos I've done, that's the one that I'm most proud of. Normally I'm stumbling over my words so much in videos and it's hard to express exactly what I want to say, but I feel like in my review of this, for once, it came out quite well. This is an adult dystopia about a woman named Of Fred. I'm not sure if you're supposed to pronounce Off Fred. I think it's Of Fred, who is essentially a sex slave, to put it in very graphic terms, for a commander in this futuristic military, because in this world people are not capable of having children, at least not most people, and she's one of the few. So her job is just dedicated to attempting to become pregnant. Fantastic. Also, I think it also has a lot of insight on how religion can affect the government and world, so please go ahead and read this. Next is Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. This might be kind of a surprise because although I think I recorded a video review, unlike my Handmaid's Tale review, it came out terribly, so I just went ahead and deleted it. This book, I think, wins for best surprise of the year for me. I remember passing by this multiple times and just thinking, oh, that looks like a piece of crap. And then I noticed it said Libba Bray, who is obviously the author of the Gemma Doyle series, which is one of my favorites. Reading this book is like getting punched in the face really, really hard with feminism, but in a fantastic way. It is very, very heavy-handed satire, and I completely understand people like, hopefully I'm not getting this wrong, I think Bex from Get Bookish has said she wasn't necessarily a fan, because I can imagine how it kind of could feel like nails on a chalkboard, just how heavy the satire is, but if you can eventually sort of enjoy that thing, you'll 100% love this book about a bunch of beauty queens who get stranded on an island after a plane crash, and then a bunch of like reality TV star pirates end up showing up, and it basically just touches on every single woman's issue that you could think of, especially because it's from so many different points of view. But this was just such a great surprise. I laughed out loud multiple times, but the slightly less intelligent girl, her sort of monologue at the end of the book, I actually started to cry a bit. So please go ahead and check this out. Don't be sort of distracted by the cover. And going on to another book, that is The Sweet Far Thing by Libba Bray. Not going to say too much about this because, like all the others, I have reviews up of it, but I thought it was a really great conclusion to the series, and although I was pissed and sad and crying at the end, I do agree with one of the comments that was left on my video. I think what happened was necessary. This book just leaves an aching hole in my heart, but in a good way. The first young adult series, particularly to girls, I would recommend reading is this one. Next is one of my favorite YA dystopias, and that is Unwind by Neil Shusterman. This book's very popular, so I'm not going to get into too much of what it's about, but the scene where someone is unwound, oh god. I've never felt so uncomfortable and squeamish during a scene where there actually was so little violence and gore actually explained. It's all just sort of understood what's happening, but and no, I have not picked up Unholy because, once again, it's not in my library and I just don't want to pay for it, but I've heard it's so good. I heard Raylene from Padfoot and Prawns raving about it, so I need to get it. Next is Gillian Flynn's newest book. One thing I also want to say, it is Gillian Flynn. I always used to say Jillian until when I think I reviewed this book, I started saying Gillian. Not that I care what anybody else says, but I just don't want people to think that, especially considering I say she's my favorite author, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I watched a review and it's Gillian, which is sort of weird. This one's interesting because for once it's actually told from a male perspective. Well, it's half and half, sort of between him and his wife. But I was interested to read this particularly because I wanted to see how well she could write men. And although I would have to say it's my least favorite out of the three, that's not at all to say that I didn't like it. It's in my favorites video. I really enjoyed it, but I would say read this last out of all of her books. All 3 books I don't have to physically show you because I either lost them, unfortunately, or just don't own them. First is I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith. This is another one like The Handmaid's Tale. I would consider very much so a modern classic about a girl living in a crumbling castle in the 1930s, and it's diary format about sort of a romantic triangle square type thing, but it's also just one of the most beautiful books that I've ever read, so definitely recommend that one, particularly during the summertime. Next is Divergent by Veronica Roth. This might be a bit of a surprise that I'm putting this in my video considering I only think I gave it 3.5 or 4 stars, but I just had so much fun reading the book, even though I actually, in my opinion, I think Divergent is a bit of a mess of a book. I think it's a little bit sloppy, but I just had so much fun reading it, I decided to put it in my favorites. I also should point out, I keep attempting to read Insurgent. I've started and read the first 20 pages about 4 times, and I just can't get into it, so let me know if anybody else had that same experience, but I feel like because it starts right where Divergent left off, I just already feel drained before I've even finished the first page, so yeah. Last one is one I read in early December, and if you would like to see a video review of it, let me know. And that is Easy by Tammara Pierce, I want to say. This is the first book I read from the new adult section, which is aimed at people 18 to 24. I'm so happy this exists. I might do a whole video just talking about new adult and how excited I am. It is a romance novel that takes place in college, and part of it feels almost a bit like a Lifetime movie, with the main girl having a stalker and falling in love with a guy with tattoos and piercings and all of that who's so different from her, but at the same time I really enjoyed it. I don't think the writing was, you know, spot on or perfect, but it was one of the best representations of college that I've seen, so in that sense I just really loved reading it, and I would recommend it if you want some college reading, because unfortunately there's not a lot of it out there. So those are my top 12 books of 2012. Make sure to let me know if you have read any of them, or you think you might go ahead and read any of them. And I think that's it, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.